Hi guys! Today on Kreisher's Corner we're going to make Blondie Chocolate Chip Brownies for National Blondie Brownie Day. So let's get started. You're going to need to gather your materials. You will need to melt your butter. I chose to melt mine in a pot on low heat. That way it wouldn't boil or brown, and that way you wouldn't get butter all over in your mom's microwave. So let's get started. First thing that we're going to get mixed here is the melted butter and the sugar. So this is 2/3 of a cup of melted butter, and 2/3 of a cup would be 10 tablespoons plus 2/3 of a tablespoon, just to let you know if you're using those markings on the butter. This is 1 cup of packed brown sugar. I do need to measure the other one, but I am going to add that. And then remember, when you measure brown sugar, you do need to pack the brown sugar before you level it. You can use the bag. Let's set that off to the side. And unlike cookies, when we mix this, you're not looking to cream it or anything. You're just looking to get it kind of smooth, because we're going to add eggs here in a little bit. There are different variations of Blondie Brownie online. Blondie Brownies do not have to have chocolate chips in them, but my family loves the chocolate chips in our Blondie Brownies. In fact, sometimes they're even called Congo Chews, if you look them up online for different recipes. All right, now what we're going to do is crack 3 eggs in. Okay, my eggs are different sizes because we have chickens and these are actually laid from them, so they vary in size when that happens because we have different aged hens. This recipe does call for each one to be cracked separately and then stirred in. I'm just going to quick whisk that. I'm going to rinse my hands quick. Okay. Whisk this one in. Okay, we'll whisk the last one in. And then once you have the last one in, essentially this recipe kind of works like a little bit like a pancake recipe in the fact that you kind of mix all your wet ingredients together and then you mix your dry, except we're not even going to mix the dry ingredients separately. You can if you want, but it's not required for this recipe. Got to get that egg white mixed in there. There we go. See how it turned nice and smooth? Now, when you use this recipe and you're melting the butter, you want to make sure that the butter is not super hot because we're going to mix everything, including the chocolate chips, right in before we bake. In fact, we did not set the oven and we did not preheat it. So if you haven't done that yet, you'll want to. What I'm going to do is going to add my last wet ingredient, and I'm going to start adding some of the dry. Our last wet ingredient here is vanilla. Calls for a teaspoon. I'm going to measure it over a bowl. It's not going to matter too much if you get a little bit of extra vanilla, but I always like to be precautious. And then I'll add it. I'm going to stir that in. Okay, baking powder. Level that off. We have 2 1/4 teaspoons. And the salt is just a pinch of salt to give it a little bit of a balance and flavor. Put some in my hand because I don't need a ton. This calls for a 1/4 teaspoon. And then I'm going to grab over that bowl, not the mixing bowl. I'll measure out roughly a 1/4 teaspoon here. I was pretty close. And I'll put it in the bowl. Now, when you measure your flour, I already have mine pre-measured, but I wanted to show you very quickly that when you go to measure it, something, especially with baked goods, It's important that you don't pack the flour down in, so I already have this pre-measured. This is 2 1/4 cups of flour, that you spoon it in and that you level it off with the back of a butter knife. Okay, or if you have a straight edge spatula like ones you ice cakes with, you can use that. And I'm not going to dump it all in it at once. I'm going to put about half in, stir it, just so that it doesn't get too hard for me to stir. Plus, I don't want to end up with a whole bunch of flour on the counter that you have to clean up. There we go. So I did about a third, a third, and a third instead of and it should be cold. You do want to make sure this has egg in it, so you don't want to taste it. That's a risk, you know, if you eat raw cookie dough. But it should feel kind of room temperature. And you add a bag of semi-sweet chocolate chips. You just have to stir that in. And then as soon as those are incorporated, then we're going to oil, or you can grease it, the 9x13. Make sure you get the sides so it doesn't stick. Into the oven it's going to go for 25 to 30 minutes, and you should see a golden brown. The next time that you see this beauty, it'll be out of the oven. You get to take a look at it. Okay, everybody, timer just came off, and we ended up doing 25 minutes. They didn't look quite brown. They're looking done. Make sure you pull the rack out first. See how they've turned nice and brown. I'm going to turn my oven off. I'm just going to double check to make sure that they're completely done. I'm going to take a knife, and they should come out nice and clean. Good. The only thing I see is chocolate chips. We're good to go. We need to let them rest and cool for about 10 to 15 minutes before we can cut them.
Hey guys, our brownies are out of the oven, our Blondie brownies, and I'm about to give it a quick taste test. I'm gonna enjoy my Blondie brownie on National Blondie Brownie Day. That's tasty. Enjoy cooking and enjoying the fruits of your labor. Till next time, guys. That's all we have for Kreisher's Korner. See ya.